located, since owners have changed, they keep all their lights off and all that.
Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Alderman Bocart.
Here.
Alderman Blank.
Here.
Alderman Old.
Here.
Alderman Bell is absent. Alderman Wilson.
Here.
And Alderman Lewis.
Here.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve October 17th meeting minutes, please?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can we get a motion to approve of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on, special items, none. Appointments to boards and commissions, we have none. Scheduled public comments have been striked, is that correct? It'll be rescheduled. All right, just a reminder that written requests need to be to city clerk by Wednesday before the meeting date for public comments. Public hearing is none. Introduction of the first reading. Council Bill number 2023-036, an ordinance calling a bond election in the city of Ashland, Missouri.
As we discussed last month at our wastewater workshop, the next step in the SRF financing process would be to place an item on the upcoming ballot to get some voter approval for some debt to be issued in conjunction with some wastewater treatment improvements. In your packet, you have the report, which has a few attachments to it, the cost summary. So as discussed, we have roughly $40 million worth of identified capital projects, and these range anywhere from immediate need to ones that need to be planned for 10 to 15 years down the road, or as conditions dictate as it relates to our various sewer sheds, if we wanted to eliminate some of those lift stations out in the market. These cost totals also include those types of projects. They're not required at this point, but those are projects that would certainly benefit the system as a whole. What we'll be primarily focusing on as the more immediate need is the expansion of the wastewater treatment facility. So as we kind of discussed in our workshop, right now we're averaging daily flows that are creeping up, if not meeting the design capacity of the existing wastewater treatment facility, which is 0.6 MGD a day, so 600,000 gallons of flow a day. We are hitting that or getting awfully close to it on an almost daily basis. So right now we're in a position where we really need to start facilitating the improvement and expansion of that plant. There are some things that we can do with those identified projects to kind of break that up and make it into a couple smaller projects and kind of go after them piecemeal to try and make some incremental improvements to it. But all told, we'll be, as discussed in the workshop, looking to place a $40 million bond question on the ballot. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have any intention, obviously, of spending that money next year or within the next 10 to 15 years, but that'll at least give us some voter approval to go after these projects as we find ourselves in a position to finance them. Included in those attachments are also some handouts from the SRF program, just to help you guys better understand that overall process and where we're at in the process. So as was presented by Bart West at our workshop, we've completed our facility plan that's been reviewed by DNR. That was that 800 and some odd page document that Kyle Landwehr had with him when he was here. So the next step would be to pursue a debt instrument, so passage of bonds with voter approval. And we're doing that at the February ballot, or intending to do that at the February ballot so that we can meet the March 1st deadline to apply for SRF funding. And that's just, the first step of the process is getting that SRF funding. We still have to engineer the overall project that we'll be pursuing. So the timeline is in here of what that tends to look like for SRF projects. And why it's critical that we pursue SRF funding for these projects is it's going to come down to the overall total cost of financing these projects from an interest perspective. So you are all aware what interest rates are right now. They're not really going down or up or anywhere, but they're a lot higher than they were 2 years ago. So SRF allows us to capture a much lower interest rate. So you're looking at a 30 to 50% cost saving from an interest perspective if we're able to secure that voter approval and then apply for SRF funding. Some things that were discussed at the workshop that we were able to get some confirmation on. Kyle Landwehr mentioned that, ideally we want to break up this 15 million in improvement to the wastewater treatment facility into 2 or 3 different projects. Those would be the actual treatment expansion itself of the Aeromod system, so adding an additional Aeromod system down there. That's roughly 10 million with all the controls and whatnot that would go along with that. And then you have the headworks, which is about 2.5 to 3 million, and then some other incremental things at the post-treatment, as well as improvements to the equalization basin that's down there. So we did confirm with the SRF program that we could break those projects up, which would enable us to apply for some grants when we start to move forward with these projects. So that should help reduce the cost. It's not going to result in drastic savings, but that could knock, $1 million off the Aeromod system, for example. So that certainly helps keep those prices down. And if we were able to combine those with SRF financing, that really helps bring this in the most affordable way that we can, not only for the city, but the ratepayers. So that's kind of where we're at with it right now. Obviously, we'll have a second reading on this. When we get down to the reports, we'll talk a little bit more about kind of next steps and try and get some workshops scheduled so that we can continue to work with the engineering firm on what we want to do and how we want to go about it, and then start looking at public workshops for public education as we get into the January timeframe. So that's all I have for the staff report on that one. I did include just some notes and stuff that I was typing through today. We don't need to go through all the pages, but just additional summary of what was presented in the workshop, and then just some notes on the 2018 revenue bonds that were issued for the existing wastewater treatment facility that we have down there, and just some notes on phasing of the project and then what that would look like from a financial perspective. So just felt a little bit more information would be beneficial to you guys, and kind of summarize what we went through in the workshop the other day.
I was not present for the workshop, but, and I've mentioned this in prior occasions, but I think it bears mentioning, that education component is very important. So the February election date is strictly for bonds. There's nothing else on the election. Turnout is extremely low for those elections. I mean, a handful of people. And, person shows up and looks at ballot, $40 million. Did I get all those zeros right? So it's important for a city to, have outreach and do education, because you're gonna have 50 people voting. That's not out of the question. And some of those folks who don't know what this is about are gonna look at that number and think this is crazy. So I would, in my opinion, and this is something that the firm preaches to all of our clients, on these bond elections, it really is incumbent upon the aldermen. They're your constituents, they're your town. You drink coffee, you see these people in churches and grocery stores, to try and do your best to sell it. I hesitate to say campaign, because of course you don't campaign, you can't advocate, you educate. This is what this is about, this isn't a tax, this is how, we're not increasing salaries with these numbers. But our firm's position is, when these things fail, we often ask ourselves, what was done to try and get people to come vote in the first place and inform those who do show up.
So, we talked about it at the workshop, and I want to make sure that I understand this. If we decided not to put this on the ballot and not go after this bond, we're still at a point where the wastewater treatment plant is approaching its maximum capacity, and at that point, DNR can step in and make us do something, and then we would be in a position where we would have to go after market-based funding, and it would cost a lot more money.
Correct.
So, okay.
I have a client, I want to tell you which one, that's in that very scenario. The wastewater facility got overwhelmed. They were given a warning. That warning was ignored, and DNR has gotten mean, and now they're making them fix it. It seems like it was foreseeable and avoidable. So, but that scenario does happen. We're dealing with it now in one of our other cities.
Can we get a pamphlet or something made up that
Yeah,
we can go out and educate with? And
we'll start producing a bunch of stuff like we did with the sales tax last spring, so.
And can we, some form fashion, have public meetings?
That'll be the plan.
So the crunch word is you can advocate, or you can educate but not advocate. We can approve a flyer, you can put stuff on Facebook, you can hold town hall meetings, you can do what you want. There is though a fine line though about spending city monies for political advocacy. You know, this is what this bill does, it's fine. You should go vote for it, not fine. And that seems like a silly fine line, but that is the line. And when we get closer, I'm happy to approve any materials, or if you want to do a town hall. But I think, as I say, half the battle is just voter turnout, getting people engaged to come, because it's, if you walk down the street and ask 100 people, what's the election in February, they'd say, huh?
Well, as much Facebook time as got the last couple of days.
Oh, good, you're getting some attention?
Yeah, I mean, looking back at the 2017 bond question, I think there were 2 or 3 open houses. I mean, that's what we'll intend to do. Those will be, you know, it's elections in February, so we'll be scheduling those leading up to the election. We can do it now, but they forget by the time we got to the election. So
do it in January.
we'll start doing educational stuff that we can publicize and push out, but the actual in-person stuff, we'll save that as we get into January and get a little closer to the actual election date.
This be like the first Tuesday in February?
What is that date on there?
February 6th, 2024 is the election day. That would be the first Tuesday at the first Monday in February. Tuesday, February 6th.
Yeah.
And again, it's strictly limited to bond issues. So anything else?
Any other questions? Is there a motion approving Council Bill number 2023-036, an ordinance calling a bond election in the city of Ashland, Missouri?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Alderman Gopher?
Aye.
Moving on to old business, which is none. New business, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a change order number 3 for M&L Landscaping and Construction LLC for the South Main Street Waterline and Resurfacing Project, please.
Well, good evening. Stephen Lynn with Allstate Consultants. Mr. James Creel asked me to attend tonight's board meeting in his place, apparently. So I didn't expect him not to be here tonight, but I guess he needed a day off. So basically, James asked me to kind of give a project update and explain the change order before you. Essentially, the contractor is has completed all construction. They were done kind of mid to late October. We had basically a walkthrough on October 24th. There was very minor items for the contractor to address. There was a few settlement issues, whenever they did the new asphalt overlay, some of the driveways, some of the gravel driveways set low, so he placed some rock on that to try to level that out. So the contractor essentially wrapped up all the punch list items today. We were down here today, and all those items look satisfactory to us. So, and essentially, this change order, since construction is complete, it is basically a final quantities change order. So it balances everything out for the project. This change order submitted by MMLC is a net deduct of $17,562 on this. So that's pretty good savings on that. So with that, the contractor has basically one pay request left on a few items. They're also requesting a reduction in retainage to 0%. Throughout the project, we were holding 5% on funds until the city and us were satisfied with construction. So we're going to recommend that, on the next pay request, to go ahead and release, all that retainage and, basically pay him out for the project. So, that's essentially it, so I don't know if there's any questions.
So is the striping of Main Street, is that part of their responsibility or is that separate?
That is separate. That was basically the city would handle the striping. And last I heard, Curtis, I spoke to Curtis not too long ago. I guess he was having some issues finding a contractor. Right now, they're pretty busy striping everywhere to get everything done before the winter. So
They're still actively working on it. They've
Yeah.
been bouncing around between about 3 different contractors. One had said that they could potentially get to it this week, and they called yesterday morning to back out and said they were not gonna be able to make it.
yeah, so you might be looking at springtime when the street and the side, the crosswalk gets striped.
Some tape with the black yellow thing. Get some tape and yellow thing out there.
Well, it's not bothering me. I'm just asking the question. It doesn't bother me at all.
I know it's nice, Main Street is nice, it turned out real beautiful.
Yeah, we're pretty happy about it too. We're also pretty happy about Wilson and Laurel Lane, the contractor did a pretty good job on those little side streets as well. Especially how narrow those Laurel and Wilson were, so.
Any other questions?
Oh, might add, with the project completion, there is also a 1-year warranty, so we'll be just kind of touching base next year to make sure if there's any corrective measures, then we'll notify the contractor and get those addressed. And also, if, anybody spots anything that they think needs to be addressed, contact probably James and he'll get with us.
Can I get a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the mayor to execute change order number 3 with M&L Landscaping Constructions LLC for the South of Main Street Waterline Resurfacing Project?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Bookhart?
Aye.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
And Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
Moving on to reports, just a few items. Thank you. Halloween went over great, we had over 400 kids at the Optimist. Don't forget about the Christmas parade on December 1st. I do have a question, Kyle, do we have a follow-up on the flagpole?
Not at this point.
Okay.
I mean, we have one identified. We need to get out and take a measurement is really where we're at with it. That'll be something that we wait till late in the last quarter of the fiscal year since it wasn't a budgeted project. Not that it's a lot of money, but that's what we'll end up doing.
Okay.
Get it installed in spring.
And then I also had somebody ask me about the park benches at Dandelion. Are they in the driveway or
There's no
what's-
driveway there, so they're in the public right of way. I mean, at the very least, they're over the sidewalk, because there is a sidewalk in front of that building, so. We're tracking on it. I've raised the issue with James, and we'll continue to monitor it, as necessary.
Thank you, sir. That is my report. City administrator report.
A couple items. I know you've all been getting the emails, but the Boone County Government Dinner is on November 30th, 6 p.m. in Hallsville. Did we have anybody attend that last year?
Yeah, we were in Sturgeon.
Sturgeon? Yeah.
So it'd be great to see a few more at that this year. I'll check the wife's schedule and see if that one works for me or not. Ready annual
When do
dinner.
we need to respond to them?
I don't know that they sent out the detail on the RSVP yet. They sent a save the date.
Okay.
November 30th, 6 p.m.
Correct. And if you'd like to just email me, if you would like to attend, I'll send up a group RSVP or send them up as they come in just to make sure they get where they need to go. Ready's annual dinner is November 15th at 4 p.m. at Boone Electric. That RSVP is due this week. Same thing, if you'd like to attend that one, just let me know. Chamber
What date was
luncheon,
that?
say again,
What date was that, Ready?
15th. 4 o'clock at Boone Electric, 4 to 6. Chamber luncheon, you should have got that email this morning, that'll be on the 29th. There's apparently been a few issues with the RSVP, so if you can't get it to go through, just respond back to Leslie with what you want, and she's in contact with them. You do have the option to either go sit down at work, eat your lunch, or go and grab it if you're working, so please, as chamber members, let's all take advantage of that if we can, that's what they're there for. Shelley wanted to report that we have received our first distribution of the new streets and police tax. That first distribution totaled just under $11,000, so we'll be monitoring that to see when those come in, see what it's looking like, see if it's living up to the estimates that we projected as part of the voter education materials. We do have that set up. I know, there's kind of been some back and forth with the Park and Storm on doing an ordinance every year to distribute that money accordingly, but it was set in the ballot language of how we were gonna handle that, and we do have it currently set up to do a even 50-50 split between some specific revenue lines. That way we can track that and make sure that we actually have the correct amount of revenues going into each one of those departments. Lead service line inventory, so I know we've kind of talked about that we did get that DNR lead service grant. The RFP, I have that wrapped up. We're gonna get that pushed out this week. Kind of been waiting on some last bit of information from Curtis to help finalize some of the numbers in that RFP. Curtis has done a pretty good job over the years of kind of documenting service line material as they've gone out to replace water meters and repair pits or replace pits. So we have a lot of information on hand that should greatly reduce the cost of that project and also reduce the amount of field work that needs to be done. So that's kind of a few of the things that we wanted to fine tune in that RFP just to make sure that we can keep that project not only within the scope of the funding that was awarded, but also keep that cost as low as possible. That RFP does have to be out for 30 days, and the project has to be completed by next October, so we still have plenty of time, and like I said, I don't anticipate a whole lot of manual labor out in the field to finish that verification process and get that up to the DNR. Christmas luncheon, it's one we did last year with staff and all the boards and commissions. Leslie will be sending out an email on that, but the date will be the 15th of December as of now. We'll do that in this room again, so please mark your calendar on that one. Currently, I'm reviewing our sewer waiver agreements that we have with Hummingbird Properties, which is the Cartwright Business Park, and then Baptist Home. Main issues there is just trying to make sure that we are accurately tracking what waivers have been used by those properties. Neither of those properties really divest themselves of those waivers, but making sure that the buildings that are out there in Cartwright or the buildings that are out at Baptist Homes, that we're correctly annotating which waivers have been used for those properties. Then, as mentioned earlier, we want to start doing some more wastewater workshops, so if scheduling allows, we'd like to get one in December. We don't anticipate heavy board agendas at this point. There's nothing on P&Z next week aside from workshop on land use development code. We don't have anything anticipated for the December P&Z at this point. And if we do, it'll be more land use development and potentially one item at most. So those should be pretty light business agendas for our meetings here. So if we wanted to try and piggyback a workshop on the same night as a board meeting, we can do that, or if we wanted to segregate it out and do it on a separate evening, we can do that as well. And if scheduling is a problem, there's nothing to say that we can't do it virtually. I mean, both Bart West and the city here, we have the capabilities to host a meeting online if that's more conducive. And then same in January as needed. We might be able to get everything done that needs to be done in December at the singular workshop, but January we might need to do another one. And then obviously, as mentioned earlier, we'll have public workshops where Bartlett West will come present the engineering similar to how it was presented to us at the workshop. So don't necessarily need all of you at those workshops, but we do need a workshop amongst ourselves here to discuss the plan of action and how we're gonna handle these projects. So don't have to give me dates tonight, but please shoot me a text or email with some availability or at least conflict so we know, or if there's a consensus to just do it on one of the business meeting nights, we can certainly shoot to do that as well.
City Attorney's report.
Nathan and I are moving down the hall in our building to a new office. It's about 3 times bigger. We're gonna keep our same suite number, so address and all that will be the same. If y'all are ever in Jeff City, and this applies now, but if you're ever in Jeff City, please stop by. Be happy to give the grand tour if you all ever need it. Our new office has a sizable conference room. If you all ever had a need for that in Jeff City, please let us know. We're moving on the 16th. It will go seamlessly. The internet will transfer perfectly. There will be no problems with the phones.
You said that now.
It is just down the hall, but I'm sure none of those things will happen.
When you said that Nathan and I was moving down the hall, I'm like, where at? I thought you meant this building.
No. Across the street from the courthouse,
There you go.
on the street.
Moving on, interim police chief monthly report, sir.
Thank you. Nothing really exciting here. We're kind of happy we got to see the numbers there. But the main thing to report is we've gotten enough people clear of field training, enough staffing that we've increased our coverage. Not quite around the clock, but, and that's on purpose. We're running from 6 a.m. all the way around to 3 a.m. And that 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. is obviously our slowest time of the day. Having the overlap in the afternoon from 3 to 6 does a couple of things. At least we have 2 on there, which is a busier time of day. The earlier start time allows us to have someone on duty when people are waking up and finding problems that developed overnight. And then we'll be having a rotation kind of deal where one of those 2, usually the day timer, will be on call starting at 3 a.m. That'll save us some on-call money. It'll also save us some overtime money in that if they get called in, they can just adjust that day and go home at 3 o'clock when the second officer comes in, and not have to rack up overtime for us. And so that should both give us better performance and a little money savings on that, we hope. And we've got one more officer that should be clear of field training projected now. And so far he's doing really well. Should be clear of field training early December, and we'll probably put him on. He'll be on one of the night shifts also, one of the three night shifts. And then we've got 2 openings, and we do have some applications we're slowly working on, and see if we can pull that off. And then the next challenge is to keep them. So, yeah, so far I think very good.
How are you doing on applications?
Right now, that's a process that I haven't gotten cleaned up properly yet, where I'm fully aware of it, but I want to say that we got 4 or 5, maybe 6 right now that we're dealing with. And, you know, if odds play out like normal, 1 or 2 of those might work out, and we'll see where that goes. But that's a process I'm still working on to get. I'd like to be in better command of that, and I'm not right now. And so that'll be happening.
Good. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Moving on, Board of Aldermen report, Alderman Bogart.
No report.
Alderman Plank.
Yeah, just one quick calendar item. The Santa and Reindeer event put together by the Ashland Veteran Coalition is scheduled for December the 8th, which is a Friday, from 5 to 7. And it will be held at any event at 114 South Henry Clay Boulevard. Real live reindeer and real live actual Santa Claus. So kids can see the reindeer and Santa Claus.
I would like to say no city has asked me to be their Santa Claus, but that is not the case. I've been asked by a lot. One city pointed out that I met the weight minimum to be Santa. No one has suggested I be the Grinch or an elf. It's universally, Todd, you did a fabulous red-faced Santa. Get in line, is what I tell them.
Alderman O.
No reporting.
Alderman Wilson.
No report.
Alderman Lewis. No report, all right. Moving on. General public comments, none. Let's see. Do we need to go to closed session?
We have nothing to discuss in closed session. If you have questions on any of the ongoing issues, we're happy to go into closed session to discuss as needed, but we have nothing to report to the board at this point.
No. You have a question?
None that need to be addressed at the moment.
good. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So
I have a second.
Second.
Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.